Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. I'm trying to remember to remind you all to subscribe to my channel from the beginning of my videos. People keep on telling me that I need to ask if you'll subscribe at the beginning of these. They keep telling me that there's a lot more people out there that probably just don't think about it and then they leave at the end. So if you would, please hit the subscribe button, and that way, and you can also, once you do that, you can set it where you can be notified every time I upload a video, and then you can, you won't have to go and look to see if I have. But anyway, that's that. Next, the man with the plan, X-Men XRP at XRP 33. This guy has come on the scene and aggressively is sending me information. And like I always say, if you send me information that is worthy of being talked about, or I think it's worthy of being talked about, it will be talked about, and I'll make sure that I give you a shout out. So shout out to at XRP 33, a definite follow in the XRP community. And he sends me this. Now this is Japan is taking crypto mainstream. This is an article from Blocked. And this is extremely significant because for those of you that haven't been around too long in this, I've witnessed more than one surge in digital assets over the last few years that are born of over in Asia, and that has included in the past Japan, Korea, and China. Those have been some of the major centers of where the surges come from. We have in the past, it seems like every year at some point over the last 5 years, regulatory uncertainty has hatched out of one of those countries, and different articles have been written, and the central governments of those countries have said different things. But I believe we're going into, as we go into 2019, this is the first year that a lot of those regulatory issues in those Asian countries are beginning to be settled. And Japan is one of them. And it's extremely important to XRP holders. And the reason is, first of all, SBI Ripple Asia, SBI Holdings owns 10 or so percent of Ripple, and they went over and formed SBI Ripple Asia, and then they formed the Japanese Bank Consortium. And the CEO of SBI Holdings, who I mentioned yesterday, is extremely bullish on XRP, and he's bullish for a reason. He's over there in Japan, and he's running the show, and he knows what's going to happen. And so that's why he keeps on making all these bullish statements via tweets and this type of thing. And so when Japan really has taken crypto mainstream, they've been working out their regulations. When they finally take this thing mainstream completely, it is on like Donkey Kong, folks. But I'm not going to go through this whole article. I just wanted to hit the high points. They're talking about how Japan is a cash-based society. They're starting to have crypto-friendly laws, and then they're talking about the crypto-friendly taxes, and that one can't be understated. And then they're talking about how a lot of places over in Japan have begun to accept digital assets in stores and different things like that. It's big, folks. It's coming. So moving along, this is from XRP Veteran. Now, this is, for those of you that don't know, Maddie Greenspan is an analyst at eToro. And I've been watching Maddie Greenspan's tweets about Ripple and XRP and different things. He gets into a lot of arguments and different things with people in the XRP community. But when I saw this, I finally realized what Maddie Greenspan is doing. And it's very smart what he's doing. Maddie Greenspan, first let me read this and then I'll explain to you what I now realize. I think this is from XRP Veteran, at XRP_Veteran, a definite follow. I think XRP is an incredibly unique digital asset, and I am bullish. I have it in my portfolio along with a lot of other cryptos. I have a very diverse portfolio, and you can see that XRP has a very prominent place there. And that's from Matty Greenspan in this article from the Daily Hodl. He says he's bullish on Ripple and XRP. But anyway, here's what I finally realized about Matty Greenspan. Matty Greenspan knows that if he continually tweaks the XRP community, it's the old saying that I've mentioned on here before, is that there is no bad advertising as long as you're all advertising. I can't remember how the saying goes, but anyway, all advertising is good advertising. It doesn't matter if it's bad advertisement or good advertisement. Now, whether I disagree or agree with that, who knows? But I know that this guy, I've read enough of what he said. He's a tweaker. He tweaks the XRP community because it keeps attention on him and eToro. That's what he's doing. And I'm fine with that as long as he's being honest. He knows he'll be, I think that sometimes he'll say things just because he knows that the XRP community will come out of the ant bed like a bunch of fire ants. Those of you that don't have fire ants, I grew up in southeast United States. You put your foot in a fire ant bed and you will see what happens. And that's what a fire ant bed reminds me of the XRP community. You put your foot in that one and it's going to sting, because nobody's going to let you get away with saying anything that's not accurate or true in the XRP community. It's pretty wild. There are people in this community that I don't want to step in the ant bed on. I mean, golly. That's not my bag, is getting into all the arguments and all of that. We're all humans. All of us every once in a while are going to say something that we might not be 1,000% right on. But there's a difference between that and some of these people that I think go onto Twitter and they intentionally say things that they know might have part of what they say that's not exactly right, and I think they're tweaking the community to get them to come out. And think about it, it's free advertising. Okay, enough of that. Moving along. C3 Nick had sent me this, and this is back in June. C3 Nick had asked Wheat Say Wind. Wheat Say Wind is one of the major developers in the XRP community that created the XRP Tip Bot. He says, I have an idea for the XRP Tip Bot. Is it possible to implement a function which automatically tips a certain amount of XRP to a Twitter user per month? I think that could be a nice addition. And then he tweeted, this feature has been implemented now, recurring XRP tips in a style of Patreon. He's referring to this tweet from Wheat Say Wind, who both of these guys, C3 Nick and Wheat Say Wind, are definite follows in the XRP community. I follow just about everybody, but anyway, this weekend you can configure a new XRP Tip Bot feature, automated recurring tips, and then he's got a video in here that you can watch on how to do it. So definitely do that if it's something you're interested in. Go check that out. Next, let me give some credit here. I forgot to put it in here. For those of you that don't know, Mike Jansen, and he, I don't have his Twitter pulled up here, but Mike Jansen, you can find him. It's, if you go type on Twitter, Mike Jansen, or it's at, COL Stadium. He's the Indianapolis Colts announcer, and he is the creator of, he produced my intro video for free, and he has a production company. Go and follow him on Twitter. And he's got his website there in his thing too as well. And you can go to his website. He does production work if any of you out there need production work. But he sent me last night, he sent me this because I had talked about it in the past. And pay attention closely here, folks, because all of you, I'm about to give you something that all of you need to watch this weekend, and it is great. I've already watched the first episode and a little bit of the second. I'm going to watch the second here in a few minutes probably. This is a show that has come on the National Geographic channel. It's called Valley of the Boom. I believe the show actually starts Sunday, but they uploaded the first 2 episodes to YouTube. You can watch them for free now. And these are interesting. And what this is about, I've talked a lot on my channel about the parallels between the dot-com boom and what's going on with digital assets and how early we are. I believe we're in about 1994 of the dot-com boom. Now, to put that in perspective, the dot-com boom did not fall apart until 1999, 2000-ish, okay? 1994, this is a show that shows you the guys that were building all of this. And one of the main guys in this, one of the main companies that they're talking about is Netscape. And for those of you that don't remember, the Netscape browser was I think it was the first internet browser, the mainstream internet browser that came about. The guy that created it was Marc Andreessen. He's featured in this as a big part of this show. And it shows you all of the things that they went through. And when you watch this, you will see all sorts of parallels between what went on then and what is happening now. And for you to be able to say, and I've heard somebody say it before, the difference between the dot-com era and today is back then, you had venture capitalists that were investing in companies that were working on protocols, on the internet protocols. This time in digital assets, and this is why the digital asset investor got into this. This is why I'm here. What's so exciting about this is that we did not have to wait to sit on the sidelines and watch the venture capitalists and the investors and the inventors make the money. This time, what's so great about this and what's so exciting about this is that this time you get to invest in the protocol before the hordes show up to the party. This time, for those of us that saw it and recognized it, we get to invest in the protocol itself, which is the digital asset and blockchain. So I want you to watch this and you're going to love it, okay? But I want to make another point here. I told you it features Marc Andreessen. Well, guess who Marc Andreessen is? Marc Andreessen is one of the partners at Andreessen Horowitz. Andreessen Horowitz is a venture capital firm that invests in a company called Ripple. Andreessen Horowitz, okay? The same Marc Andreessen. If you don't think that Marc Andreessen sees what you and I see in XRP and Ripple, you're out of your mind. Marc Andreessen was there. And in fact, I tweeted the Valley of the Boom to Brad Garlinghouse because Brad Garlinghouse was there. He was there in the dot-com boom too, is my understanding. And Brad Garlinghouse came up during that same time, and he saw what that was like. And so did Chris Larson. A lot of these guys were there. They know that this is the second coming of the internet, but much, much larger. They know it. That's why they're here, folks. But Marc Andreessen is now the mega millionaire on the investor side of all of this. And Marc Andreessen is also here. This is the portfolio of Andreessen Horowitz. Don't think that these guys are not plugged in. Look who they're invested in. They're also investors in Bitcoin. They're investors in Ethereum. They're investors in Harbor, and I covered Harbor a few weeks ago. Harbor is one of the companies that is working on tokenizing the world. In other words, what we've talked about, tokenizing real estate, tokenizing bonds, tokenizing everything, real estate, bonds, you name it, commodities. That's what they're involved in. These guys know what's coming because they were there, and you need to watch that. Then we get to Tim Draper, who's one of my favorite billionaires. Tim Draper, this is an article that is it's written by Tim Draper, and it's on CoinDesk. I'm as certain as ever, Bitcoin's revolution is only just the beginning. Now, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that we've shown before that he's also an investor in XRP. One thing that's fascinating to me about XRP is that it's almost like there's a media blackout of talking about Ripple and XRP. And I believe that the reason that it's there, I believe that they all know that XRP is ultimately the I would call it the thoroughbred of thoroughbreds of all of these digital assets. And I think they all know it. And I think that they don't get out there and pump it up because I believe that somewhere, somehow, there's some kind of a concerted effort for them all to keep the lid on it until the time is right. I've always believed that. Reading between the lines of everything that you see, all the things that are very obvious to you and I, and then you'll watch CNBC and they'll talk about 3 or 4 digital assets that are in the top on CoinMarketCap, and they'll intentionally skip over XRP. And every time I'm watching, I'm like, that's odd. I've always thought in my gut that these people, there's a concerted effort by the major people, the mega money people, to, okay, not yet, now. That's how I've always felt about XRP. That kind of a moment is coming. And I will tell you this, and I'm not going to say I have sources and all of that, but what I am going to say is that I do get emails. I've gotten more than one email that tells me things to that effect, to the effect that something's coming, something's going to be announced. I get that kind of stuff, and I don't talk about it because, I don't want to be the guy, oh, I've got a source. I don't have a source. I get random comments like that, and it's kind of that kind of reaffirm what's in my gut about XRP as well. But I want to read to you the last part of Tim Draper's article here. Here's what Tim Draper says. He says, change is coming. Many industries, hold on, I need some cinnamon coffee. I'm going to start that back over. Okay. Change is coming. Many industries will have to go through fundamental changes to adapt to the advent of this new way of thinking. People will have to learn that the bank, being the trusted third party for centuries, will soon be replaced by computers that now monitor their holdings through the blockchain. Banking will be simpler, safer, and easier than relying on people to do the monotonous work in some brick and mortar facility. It is interesting. Now, before I go on to the next paragraph, I want you to think in your mind about what he just said. Banking will be simpler, safer, and easier than relying on people to do monotonous work on some brick and mortar facility. Now, I want you to think about that brick and mortar bank facility the way that you know it right now. And then I want you to think back when the internet first started. All of them laughed at Amazon and the idea, oh, you're going to buy, so what are you going to do, buy everything over the internet? And then I want you to think about the recent news. They're taking the Kmart logos and the Sears logos off of those brick and mortar facilities as I speak. Those are coming down. Those stores are shutting down. The only stores that the internet and Amazon specifically has literally taken out the world of on-the-ground retail. They have taken it out. And you've seen Walmart building, Walmart has begun a focus on Walmart grocery stores. They call them something market, I can't even remember. But this is what if you really want to understand what you're a part of, what he just said is what you're a part of. The internet took out, it took time, but it was just a matter of time. It took out retail. Amazon, if you really want to sum it up, Amazon destroyed. Circuit City, gone. Sears is about gone. Kmart about gone. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion, before Walmart shuts most of their stores down and focuses on other things, including focusing on their grocery stores. And it'll be think about it, it's going to be grocery store, the things that you would still need on the ground. Gas stations, grocery stores, restaurants. But banks are the next thing to go. Why do we need a bank? Why do we need to walk into a bank? Do I need to go into a bank to carry my check in there, to deposit it and talk to a person about depositing this check? Why would I need to do that with digital assets? I would not. He just nailed what is coming. You've already seen it when the internet came. So why would you deny it now? Okay, I'm reading along further in his article. This is him speaking. It is interesting to note that countries now recognizing that they are in competition with one another, are trying to make sure they win the Bitcoin economy. The smartest of these are either allowing Bitcoin to prosper or recognize that they need a light touch in regulating Bitcoin to attract all the creativity, money, and startups that are flooding into the field. The U.S. was wise to leave the internet unregulated and free because all the internet entrepreneurs created startups domestically and the economy around the internet blossomed. Keeping its regulatory hands light should help innovators stay in the U.S. There are many parallels between Bitcoin now and the internet in 1994. In 1994, the internet was just for hobbyists and hackers. I remember when I first used the internet, the only things I could do were to buy diamonds and try to break into NORAD. There were very few uses. It took many years for the internet to become mainstream, but when it did, it transformed industries. The long-term vision for Bitcoin is to give the world economic emancipation. The potential, if Bitcoin is only limited by the imaginations of the entrepreneurs who work to drive this new virtual economy, to monitor, to keep it honest. I believe that the community of users will ultimately self-regulate, possibly eclipsing or obviating the need for various governments to regulate the crypto world. I've been through the ups and downs with Bitcoin, and I am as certain as ever that the Bitcoin revolution is coming. It is here to bank the unbanked, to democratize economic opportunity, and to reevaluate governance. I expect that it will change everything from banks and the financial system to healthcare to democracy, even the government. He is so right, folks. And I want to finish that thought with showing you what Mr. B XRP tweeted. At XRP Mr. Definite follow if there ever was a follow. This guy is all over XRP in the community. He says digital assets today. And I'll tell you, folks, I can remember going to one of my friends' houses in elementary school. They had this same exact computer. I can remember playing on this computer, and I can remember saying to myself, well, this is really cool and all. We can put this floppy disk in here, and we can save this, and we can play on the draw pad. And I remember saying to myself, but you really can't do anything with this thing. And that was before all the different softwares came out. Well, that's where we are now. If you really think about it, right now, all of what we're doing behind the scenes is basically gathering the digital assets that we want to hold. Well, just like with this computer here, what you're about to see, just like they did with software. When it first came out, we stared at it like a caveman and like, well, what can I really do with this? Yeah, I can draw on the draw pad, but okay, big deal. And then the software came out, and the same with this. Apps, you're about to see apps that are going to be built on top of all of these digital assets and different blockchains, and there will be winners and there will be losers. And we are betting on the greatest horse of them all, the thoroughbred. And you're going to see apps that are built, just as an example, the one over that Santander is doing, FX Pay, what do they call it? FX Pay. I can't even remember. I'm drawing a blank right now. But that's just one example of an app that's being built on top of what Ripple is doing. And it's just a matter of time before those same apps are moving digital assets around the world through the interledger. That is where we are, folks. I want to finish this by telling you, because I forgot to tell you. I told you about the Ledger Nano X, and this is the first Bluetooth-enabled ledger device that they have. For those of you that aren't familiar, this is a hard wallet to store your digital assets. Nobody argues with the fact that this is the safest way for all of us to store our digital assets so that they're not on exchanges. But what I did not tell you, this one I believe is $119 US. But what I did not tell you is that they have now taken the price of the Ledger Nano S, which was the first product, and they've taken that price down. And these still, you can hold your digital assets on these, and they have them in several covers. Now you can get it for $59. And so for those of you, that's kind of how I buy the TVs. I always buy, when everybody else begins buying the latest thing, the curved flat screen or whatever, that's when I go and get a deal on a really good flat screen from the last generation of TVs. So that is one idea for you. If you have not gotten one, this is in the description of all of my videos. You can go and click on the link and it'll take you straight here if you want to get one. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that you can now get the Ledger Nano S for $59 if you want to get the first one they came out with, and you can store your digital assets just as safe on that. Thanks for listening.